Yona is your average pick-me girl simping over her cousin. However, things change when her crush kills her father and takes over the throne. At verge of despair, Yona cracks out of her shell with help of her friend-zone lover and goes on a journey to reclaim everything while discovering how she is the reincarnation of the ancient dragon god. There's a girl named Yona with red hair standing near the edge of a cliff. She's watching an army as they march towards a destination. One of the men behind her tells her that they need to leave, but Yona responds by saying that she never thought the outside world of Castle will be so cold. The princess then goes on to tell about the Kuka kingdom and living in Huriwu Castle. Her father, the king, doesn't have a son or a queen. On the anniversary of his father's death, the king is making a speech in town. Meanwhile, Hack, a boy from earlier in the story, acts as her personal guard and feels a bit jealous when he finds out she's dressing up for someone else. After the speech, it turns out Yona is getting ready and misses her father's speech, for which she apologizes. She comes across as rather self-centered, which Hack notices when he walks into the room. Yona tries to hit him and wants her father to punish him, but the king refuses, explaining that Hack is one of the 5 generals who protect the castle and also her childhood friend. Hack interrupts to tell her that Su-won, her cousin who is 3 years older, has arrived at the castle. Excited, Yona rushes out to meet him and realizes he's changed and isn't the boy she remembered. Su-won is set to stay until Yona's 16th birthday, which is a week away. Yona feels like Su-won still sees her as a child. She thinks back to their younger days and how he looked after her when her mother died. The following day, while searching for her cousin, she accidentally meets the king instead. He points out Su-won and Hack, who are practicing with horses and bows. After watching them, Yona wants to try archery, but her father doesn't want her to touch any weapons. Despite this, Su-won asks her to join him for a horse ride. Being near her crush makes Yona nervous and she ends up saying odd things, which leads Su-won to share that he has received marriage proposal. Feeling a bit jealous, Yona quickly claims that she is engaged to Hack. Once they enter, the king tells Yona she needs to get engaged. They argue because she wants to wed Su-won, but her father opposes it. He explains that the man she marries will become the next king. Yona argues that Su-won has royal blood as he's the son of her late uncle, Yu-han. She even calls her father a coward, but he still refuses to accept Su-won as her future husband. The king mentions that Su-won didn't seek revenge after Yona's mother was killed by rebels, and he explains that being a king involves risks he doesn't want for them. Yona finds it hard to understand her father's reasons. Later, Yona is sobbing in the castle courtyard while it's raining. Suddenly, she spots a shadow following her, thinking it's the same rebel that killed her mother. She runs and escapes into a room where she meets Su-won. It is in that moment that he confesses to seeing her as more than just a girl, but he refuses to develop any feelings for her. However, the fact that he sees her differently brings her happiness. Meanwhile, outside, it is revealed that the mysterious person who was chasing Yona is none other than the Kaisuk. As Yona's birthday approaches, Su-won presents her with a hair ornament and tells her that he likes her red hair, even though she doesn't particularly like it. Their conversation is interrupted by Hack, who informs Yona that the king is looking for her. Ignoring Hack's words, Yona heads to her room. Hack expresses his suspicion about something strange happening in the castle to Su-won, who instructs him to keep watch since Yona had mentioned someone watching her the other day. In response, Hack quickly rushes out to patrol the area. As night falls, Yona ponders over Su-won in her room and decides to seek her father's approval for their marriage. Rushing to his room, she realizes the castle is unusually devoid of guards. To her horror, she finds Su-won standing over her father, having just stabbed him. Elsewhere, Hack patrols the castle grounds and runs into Min-soo, who shares a drink with him. Their conversation about Yona and Su-won is abruptly cut short when they learn that Yona has been captured by kingdom soldiers. Hack swiftly intervenes, overpowering the soldiers and saving Yona. He then confronts Su-won, demanding answers. When Su-won exposed the king's true nature, Yona disagreed, but Su-won argued that she didn't understand his perspective. Meanwhile, Hack encountered guards discussing him, prompting him to confront them for information. In the king's room, Su-won explains to Yona that he turned against the king because the king had rejected Su-won's father, who was the rightful heir to the throne as the older brother. Seeking revenge, Su-won now aims to become the king of Kuka. Yona finds it hard to believe. When Su-won questions why she entered the king's room, something she rarely did, Yona shocks him by expressing her intention to marry him. Just then, the doors swing open and Kaisuk, accompanied by guards, enters. He instructs Su-won to kill Yona as she witnessed everything. As Su-won moves to attack her, Yona flees, accidentally igniting a curtain to catch fire in the process. Taking advantage of the opportunity, she escapes only to be caught in the courtyard. However, Hack arrives and defends her. Kaisuk names Su-won as the new king of Kuka, informing Hack that Su-won has exposed the previous king, a revelation Yona witnessed. Enraged, Hack charges at Su-won. their clash intensifying as Hak's reputation as the Thunder Beast of Kuka precedes him. Despite Soo-won's orders for Kai-suk not to interfere, the battle rages on. Hak manages to inflict a minor injury on Soo-won before a guard threatens Yona with a sword. Hak comes to a halt as the guards surround him. Soo-won warns Hak that he will attack anyone who stands in his way. Suddenly, an arrow falls to the ground, causing a distraction that Hak seizes as an opportunity. He grabs Yona and they make a run for it. In a surprising turn of events, they encounter Min-soo, the one who shot the arrow. Learning that he is the king, Min-soo offers to help them escape by dressing up as the princess. He assures them that he will create a diversion to distract the guards, allowing them to leave. True to his word, Min-soo creates a distraction and promises to escape as well. However, after Hak and Yona manage to flee the castle, it is revealed that Min-soo has been struck by arrows in his back. Kai-suk informs Soo-won that he will send guards to search the mountains. But Soo-won explains that Hak grew up there, making it challenging for them to locate them. It is revealed that Hak and Yona are together, and Yona is feeling shocked by everything that has happened. She asks Hak what they should do now. Hak tells her that no matter where they go, they must keep on living and show their gratitude towards the king's feelings. The next day, people at the castle are already asking about what happened, and Kai-suk informs Soo-won that they couldn't find Hak and Yona, so he asks for advice on how to proceed. The scene shifts to the beginning where Yona was standing on a cliff. Her allies start attacking the army while Yona orders the army to retreat and leave the kingdom of Kuka, promising that peace will be restored to her kingdom. Suddenly, a soldier shoots an arrow at her, but one of her allies defends her with a shield, as she also aims an arrow at the enemy. As they keep going, Yona trips because she's very tired, and Hak suggests they should take a break. Watching her, Hak thinks about how Yona has never really experienced hardship or discomfort before. Then, we go back 3 years in the story. We see a young Hak getting scolded by General Mundok, who he calls his grandfather. Hak missed a royal ceremony, and clearly doesn't want any part of it. Just then, the king comes by and asks Hak to be Yona's bodyguard. Hak says no and walks away, thinking to himself that he doesn't like being in the castle because being around Yona makes him feel overwhelmed. While they were together, Yona suddenly runs into Hak and asks him to hide her from Kan Tae-jun, a man from the Fire tribe who is trying to impress her. Hak helps her hide and suggests she should tell Tae-jun that her heart is already taken by Soo-won. However, Yona clarifies that Soo-won doesn't reciprocate her feelings. Hak, feeling uninterested in her romantic dilemmas, gets annoyed when she comments that Soo-won wouldn't react like he did. Later, in his grandfather's room, Hak is visibly upset. Yona comes in with a bunch of fruit, apologizing for her hesitation and promises to handle her issues on her own. Yona actually turns down Kan Tae-jun's advances, but he doesn't take no for an answer and starts to get aggressive with her. The guards witness this, but since Yona is royalty, they can only inform the king about what happened. Hak sees the situation and intervenes, pretending to be Yona's partner. He claims that they have been destined to be together since they were kids. Yona plays along and pretends to love him, hugging him tightly. Kang gets really angry and tries to draw his sword to attack Hak, but the king steps in and takes the sword from him. The king asks Kang not to attack and he runs off in embarrassment. The king thanks Hak for his actions and once again asks him to be Yona's bodyguard. This time, Hak accepts the offer. As the king and Yona leave, Hak reflects on how the king isn't weak, noticing his firm actions. The story then shifts to the present, showing how Hak looks after Yona, vowing to protect her as she sleeps. During this time, Yona dreams about her childhood, remembering playing in the snow with Soo-won and Hak. They all caught colds, but after their parents and Hak's grandfather visited, they recovered and promised to always stay together. In her dream, Yona suddenly finds herself at 16 years old and sees her father's image in Soo-won, which frightens her and causes her to wake up. Hak goes to check on Yona and says sorry, explaining he only left to get some water. It then shows how Hak tries to feed her, but she refuses to eat anything, which makes him worried because he's not sure when they'll find more food. Later, while Yona is bathing in a lake, Hak comes across her lost hair ornament. That night, they settle in a cave, and Yona starts searching for her ornament. Unable to find it, she wanders into the forest and accidentally stumbles upon a nest of snakes. Just as the snakes are about to strike, Hak rushes in and rescues her, but gets bitten by one of the snakes in the process. Back at their camp, he returns the ornament to her, sharing that he's still unsure about forgiving Soo-won, but he notes that this was the first time she acted on her own. He gives it back to her, hoping it will help keep her spirit alive. Meanwhile at the castle, the guards inform Soo-won that they couldn't locate Hak. However, Soo-won instructs them to allow Hak and Yona to leave, because outside of the castle they pose no threat and there are more pressing matters that require their attention. The next day, Yona sees Hak's bandage and, despite his reassurances that the snake bite won't stop him, she suggests they head to a village for food and medicine. However, Hak explains that even if the villagers don't recognize them, there are likely many guards who will. So, they decide to head to Fuga, their hometown. Upon reaching Fuga, Hak wakes the sleeping guards at the city entrance. They recognize him and soon, the whole city comes out to welcome him, unaware of recent events in the kingdom. Hak introduces Yona as a court lady and healer, which raises many questions. He quickly takes her into the city, ensuring she gets a bed and food. Yona inquires about his grandfather and learns he was called to the castle, which is odd since he's no longer a general. She asks Hak if his grandfather was fired, and they continue towards the castle. In the castle, it's shown that the generals and the leaders of the 5 clans are discussing the king's rumored death and suspecting Hak of taking the princess. However, the elder Mundok doesn't believe this story. Just then, Suwon enters and confirms that the king, Hak, and Yona are missing. He asks everyone to keep this quiet and to inform him immediately if they find any of them. Additionally, the leader of the Fire Clan suggests they choose a new king to prevent outsiders from taking over the kingdom. Everyone agrees to make Suwon the king except Mundok, who argues that Hak, as a general, doesn't have the authority to support this decision. Suwon warns him that opposing this could be seen as rebellion by the Wind clan, which would be bad for his home, Fuga. He hopes to see Mundok at the coronation in 3 days. Mundok expresses his disappointment, saying he once saw Suwon as a grandson, and then leaves. After this, it's shown that the Fire Clan's general and Suwon are secretly planning together. Suwon mentions that Hak won't reveal anything to protect Yona and also instructs the general to be ready for any rebellion from the Wind clan. He watches as the elder Mundok heads back to his city. Meanwhile, in the city, Yona wakes up and meets a boy named Tion, who is Hak's brother. Tion gives her some food. Before Yona can respond to the questions from him and the guards, Hak quickly pulls her aside and tells her that she will now go by the name Rina and pretend to be an apprentice. Yona sees how happy everyone is and realizes this is where Hak grew up. When she steps outside, a woman jokingly tells her that she heard Yona was kicked out of the castle because she couldn't wash or cook. After getting the clothes from the lady, she tells Yona that she will teach her how to wash them. Hak helps Yona carry the clothes to the riverbank where they plan to start washing. But to their surprise, they find that the river is completely dry. This causes panic among the villagers, but Hak reassures them that he has already sent Hindi to investigate the situation. Just then, Mundok arrives in the city and feels relieved when he sees Yona and Hak together. He informs them about Suwon's plan and reveals that the dry river is a result of Suwon's rejection for his coronation. Suddenly, Hindi arrives, badly injured, and explains that the Fire Clan has built dams to block the river. He tried to fight them off, but they were stronger and managed to wound him. Everyone in the city wants to fight against the Fire Clan, but Hak tells them to stay calm and not take any action. Instead, he advises them to buy water from the merchants while they work on finding a solution. During this time, a soldier from the Fire Clan is seen observing Kan, who is filled with anger and wants to attack the Fire Clan even more, especially because he lost Yona. Later on, it is revealed that Tion wants to give water to Yona and informs her that dinner is ready. However, Mundok enters the scene with a group of people and explains that Tion has a lung disease that causes paralysis. He reassures them that taking the medicine will make Tion feel better. But suddenly, another person enters and informs them that the merchants are being attacked by the Fire Clan, preventing them from bringing water and medicine to the city. Hak manages to calm everyone down. And despite his injuries, Hindi volunteers to head into the forest to find a doctor who can provide medicine for Tion. Hak insists that everyone should stay calm and avoid fighting because the Fire Clan is too strong, and he believes he will find a solution. That evening, while they are looking after Tion, Hak suggests to Yona that she could stay in the village and live peacefully. He then speaks with Mundok, telling him that he plans to leave and urges him to accept the coronation to keep the Wind clan safe. Hak also requests that Mundok look after Yona and welcome her as part of the clan. Mundok, who is the village chief and Hak's grandfather, tearfully agrees to these last requests from General Sun Hak. That night, Hak visits the local blacksmith shop, wakes up the owner, and looks for a small sword and a bow. He tells the owner he'll be away for some time and pays off his debt, leaving the owner puzzled. Meanwhile, Hindi arrives with medicine for Tion, who quickly recovers, though it leaves Hindi very tired. Another guard mentions that they need to check on the injured and take care of Hindi. Yona steps out to follow him and runs into the woman who had given her clothes to wash. They go together to see the injured. Inside, Yona is shocked to realize that the Fire Clan won't stop until Suwon becomes king. She then encounters Hindi, who, along with another guard, tries to lift her spirits. They assure her that Chief Hak and Mundok will look after her because everyone there is considered family. This makes her decide not to drag them into her problems. The next day, while searching for Hak, Yona comes across Tan, who expresses gratitude for Hak's assistance and informs her that he is leaving. This news brings Yona to tears. and as Tan departs, he confesses his inability to protect Rina as Hak had asked him to. Exiting the village, Hak is seen with a guard who informs him that he will become the next general and must take care of Rina. However, the guard expresses reluctance, implying that he already knew about Yona. Suddenly, Yona appears and orders Hak to accompany her. Despite his initial refusal, Yona persistently insists, even raising her voice and demanding that he yield to her request. Eventually, Hak agrees to accompany her. Just then, Mundok appears, dismisses them, and assures Yona of the Wind clan's unwavering support. They proceed to meet Kan, who is feeling down due to being scolded by his father. However, a soldier approaches Kan and informs him that they spotted Yona and Hak heading towards the northern mountains. Kan quickly tells them to gather the soldiers. When Hak and Yona reached the mountains, they searched for a monk that Mundok had mentioned. This monk supposedly possessed knowledge about the kingdom's future. They learned that the monk used to live in the castle but was mistreated and forced to live far away from any towns. Suddenly, Hak sensed the presence of 50 men approaching, and after running with Yona for a while, they encountered the soldiers who aimed their bows at them. The soldiers started attacking, but Hak fought back and defeated them. Then Tang appeared and tried to talk to them, but they ignored him. Eventually, Hak informed Tang that he was no longer a general and that the involvement of the Wind clan was unnecessary. This led to a fight between them, and Hak and Yona ran away. However, Yona stumbled, and a soldier took advantage of this to shoot a poisoned arrow at Hak. Despite being hit, Hak remained determined and continued to flee with Yona. After hiding, Hak tells Yona to stay put while he goes back to fight. Yona, learning about the poison arrow and hearing plans for another one aimed at Hak, started to rethink her reliance on him. She rushes out, pushes the archer away, and finds herself face to face with Kan. Kan tried to convince her they could join forces to defeat Su-won, but Yona didn't trust him. Meanwhile, Hak was battling multiple soldiers and scolded Yona for leaving her hiding spot. Despite Hak's concerns, Yona kept glaring at Kan with a fierce look. As the battle goes on, Hak starts feeling the effects of the poison in his injury. During the fight, a soldier manages to slash him, causing Hak to tumble towards a cliff and barely hang on by one hand. Yona sees this and is terrified for Hak. She wants to rush over to help him, but Kan grabs her hair, trying to drag her back to the castle. Yona grabs Kan's sword, cuts her own hair to free herself, and scares Kan so much that he falls over. She then hurries to help Hak, but because he is much heavier, they both end up falling down the cliff. Kan, in a panic, wants to jump after them, but his soldiers stop him, insisting that no one can survive such a fall. As night falls, Kaisuk arrives at the castle with Su-won and informs him that Kan has come unannounced, wanting to speak immediately. Kan presents Su-won with a lock of Yona's hair, claiming he has captured her and asking for punishment. However, Su-won simply advises him to rest at the castle that night and attend the coronation the next day. Meanwhile, Su-won feels sad as he remembers his childhood days with Yona and Hak. That same night, a young man walking through the forest stumbles upon Hak and Yona by the riverbank, mistaking them for homeless people. He then goes to inform Su-won, who is preparing for his coronation shower, but gets interrupted by Kaisuk. Kaisuk reports that Mundok has come with the new general of the Wind clan. At sunrise, Su-won makes his way to the docks of the Red Dragon Palace, where the coronation ceremony is set to take place. He remembers a conversation with Hak, where Hak asked him to become king and promised to be his loyal companion and protect Yona. As Su-won enters the palace, he realizes that although he will become king, he will not have Hak by his side nor the love of Yona. Once crowned, the generals of the clans pledge their loyalty to Su-won, but he remains suspicious of each one. When Mundok speaks, Su-won senses his disapproval, which he accepts. Su-won then addresses the people, expressing his determination to fight for the restoration of the kingdom. This declaration garners acclaim from the crowd, except for those from the Wind clan. Meanwhile, Yona wakes up to find a young man named Yun offering her orange juice. She anxiously inquires about Hak, and Yun shows her Hak's bandaged state, explaining that he was fortunate enough to be saved. Just as Yona is about to ask if Yun is a doctor, another person named Iksu appears, introducing himself as Yun's guardian. Iksu reveals that the gods have revealed Yona's true identity throughout her journey, leading her to believe that Iksu is the monk Mundok mentioned. He says his role is to speak for the gods. But Yun mentions he was kicked out of the castle for claiming he hears the gods' voices, which shocks Yona. She wonders how he knows about the castle. As the day progresses, Hak develops a fever, worrying Yona, who urges Yun to heal him. Yona becomes upset when Yun says he's not a doctor and hasn't even been thanked for saving her. However, Iksu steps in, suggesting Yona take a walk and advising Yun to be kinder to her as she's also struggling in her own way. While they were walking, Yona asks Iksu how he ended up there, and he explains that the current brought him there and he enjoys it because even flowers grow in that place. Later, at night, Yona talks to Yun and asks him to share what happened with the monks and expresses her desire to stop being ignorant. Yun clarifies that he is not a monk but takes care of Iksu. He explains that in the past, the monks held more influence than the kings as they were considered the servants of the gods. However, when Junam and Prince Yuhan were expanding their territory and saw the power the monks held, they banished them from the castle to prevent them from undermining the king. Yona thanks Yun for enlightening her and asks him to teach her more later. The next morning, she wakes up and realizes Hak is not by her side, so she rushes out to look for him. In her haste, she stumbles, but Hak appears, having gone to retrieve his spear. Yona complains to him and starts crying, prompting Hak to approach her, unable to bear seeing her cry. He leans in for a kiss, but Yona stops him by rubbing her forehead against his. She explains that she wanted to check his temperature, demonstrating her innocence. Hak notices Yona's haircut and she tells him that it's okay because she doesn't really like it anyway. Hak realized that Yona still wears the hairpin given by Su-won, even though she doesn't really need it. The next morning, Yona shared everything with Hak, and he thanked Yun for taking care of them and playfully called him a monk while grabbing his food. However, Hak corrected himself and acknowledged that Yun is not a monk. Later, Yona found Iksu sitting alone, crying. He told her that he had a dream about her and her future, but she reassured him that she wants to live and will protect Hak from any harm. When they all gathered, Iksu shared what the gods wanted him to tell Yona. He mentioned the legend of the Red Dragon and the Four Dragons, which explains how the kingdom of Kuka was founded. According to the legend, a red dragon transformed into a man and established the kingdom of Kuka. When people threatened to destroy it, 4 dragons appeared to defend the kingdom. However, the red dragon refused their help. Instead, the dragons bestowed their powers upon 4 individuals, granting them special abilities like sharp claws, far-sighted eyes, powerful legs for jumping, and an indestructible body. With these powers, they were able to win battles and establish the kingdom. However, when the king became ruthless, the 4 warriors left, and the clans continued to evolve, eventually forming the clans that exist today. Yona questions Iksu about how the story relates to her future. He explains that she needs to protect herself because if things don't change, Hak will be heartbroken, even though Hak doesn't admit it. Iksu tells her that she needs friends who will support her cause and that these friends do indeed exist. He believes Hak's journey to them wasn't just luck but destiny. At night, as Yona thinks about becoming stronger while holding her hair ornament, Hak shows up. She tells him she wants to find those 4 allies and asks him to teach her how to use a sword and bow. Hak agrees to help her. Just then, Iksu joins them, happy about their decision, and asks for a favor. Meanwhile, Yun is seen finishing a red suit. That night, Yona recalls Iksu's request to take Yun along. The next morning, Yun presents Yona with an outfit he made, which she likes. Wanting to trim her hair, Yona grabs an axe, but Yun helps her with a razor instead. After cutting her hair, Yun humorously asks for payment for medicine, clothes, and the haircut. With no money, he suggests charging Mundok, surprising Yona since Mundok is as strong as Yuhong. Mundok is an old man who cares for and loves children. Yun then reveals he's a genius who can memorize books in one read, though he hasn't read many. He shows her a medical book from Iksu, making her ponder. Later, Yona decides to discuss with Iksu about not taking Yun if he's unwilling, but Yun overhears and insists on helping the princess himself. Meanwhile, Yun is about to discard his medicine book by a bonfire, but stops when Hak arrives with fish. As Hak cooks the fish, Yona notices Hak moving around normally. Hak explains he needs to stay to look after Yona, which Yun calls silly. However, Hak points out that Yun does the same for Iksu. This makes Yun think as he stands by a waterfall, looking at his book. Yun recalls meeting Iksu 7 years ago in Tusa, a village in the Fire Clan. Although he initially wanted to help Iksu find a place to stay, he ended up letting him sleep at his house. The next day, Iksu gave Yun a potato, which Yun sold to buy shoes for traveling. Instead, Yun made straw sandals and taught Iksu how to make them, and Iksu made them even better. Iksu then went on a trip, and during that time, Yun started selling the straw sandals to earn money for food. He missed Iksu, who eventually returned looking disheveled. Iksu explained that he was robbed of the books and gold he intended to give Yun. Now, Iksu planned to travel to a place called Fairway Place and asked Yun to join him, reminding him of all the experiences they shared together. In the real world, Iksu approaches Yun and suggests that he should finally embark on the journey he always dreamed of. However, Yun notices that his sandals are worn out, so he quickly makes him a new pair. Iksu is grateful and celebrates, showing that he can take care of himself by regaining his balance before falling. They both shed tears, reassuring each other that it's not a permanent goodbye and that they will meet again in the future. Later, they gather at Yun's house where Yona and Hak are ready to leave. They decide to bring Yun along, and they bid farewell to Iksu. Yun is now prepared for whatever challenges may come their way during the journey. As they set off, Yun looks hopeful and confidently leads them down a path he is familiar with. Kai-suk discovers Soo-won reading in his office and informs him that there were indeed issues with taxes in the kingdom. Kai-suk had already fired the person responsible for this. In response, Soo-won explains that even though the previous king was good, it can lead to greed and selfishness from others. Suddenly, Kai notices a forbidden book that Soo-won is reading. Soo-won explains that it's a book about the legend of the dragons, but he believes that fantasies alone won't solve the problems in the kingdom. Next, we see the boys traveling as merchants, with Yona hidden in a bag. Yona gets upset when Hak takes advantage and starts poking and annoying her in the bag. However, Yun calms them down, reminding them not to attract any more attention, especially as they have to pass through a village in the capital of the Fire Clan. They come across some mountains and one of them stops moving when they encounter someone. Yona doesn't hide, but the person doesn't recognize them and walks away. Yona tells Hak that she hasn't fully recovered yet and shouldn't be carried throughout the entire journey. She wants to see the kingdom with her own eyes. As they travel, Yona spots a mill and a field of rice and corn, and her curiosity leads her to ask about them. They explain to her that the food she received at the castle came from there, which reminds her of the lunches she had with her father. When they arrive in town, they feel a bit safer because there are no soldiers around. Hak decides to leave them at a restaurant while he goes to an armory to replace the weapons he lost when he fell from the cliff. He gets himself a bow and notices a small sword for Yona, but he refuses to buy it for her. Meanwhile, at the restaurant, the group overhears news about Soo-won's coronation, which makes Yona nervous, so she quickly runs out of the restaurant. When Yona finally catches up with him, he warns her not to draw too much attention to herself. Just then, they spot some guards from the Fire Clan, so they quickly duck into an alley. Suddenly, someone grabs Yona from behind, startling them. It turns out to be Hak, who tells them they need to leave the town immediately. After they leave, Hak apologizes for leaving them alone, and they continue on their journey. As they travel day and night, Yona one day asks Hak to teach her how to use a bow, not for fighting but just to create a chance to escape. Hak agrees and hands her his bow, explaining that for now, she will only learn this and not the sword. He remembers that his father didn't want him to use weapons and that he is now going against the king's orders. During their journey, he practices regularly, and Yona also uses the knights to train so much that she ends up hurting her hands. One day, while having lunch with Yun warns her that she needs to be ready to protect herself because her enemies won't hesitate. Later, while they are traveling, she tries to shoot a small boar but hesitates and misses. Hak sees this and tells Yona to move ahead while he starts to challenge her, asking her to shoot at him to test her skills. As Yona fails to hit the target, Hak tells her to imagine herself as Soo-won and pretend to cut his cheek. This makes Yona cry, and she promises to protect Hak at all costs. However, Hak insists that she shouldn't protect him because he is merely her servant. While they continue their journey, the surroundings become foggy and Yona discovers Yun's belongings on the ground. Suddenly, voices urge them to leave the area, and Hak swiftly dispels the fog, revealing a group of archers known as the Guardians of the White Dragon. The archers recognize Yona as the red-haired girl, and she informs them that they are searching for the person the monk told them about. The Guardians take Yona and Hak on a tour of the city called Hakaru. They see a white dragon looking out of a window. Suddenly, they find Yun locked in a cage, wondering if the others were captured too. When Yun spots them with an elder from the village, he calls out to them, and the elder apologizes and sets him free. Hak tells Yona that the Guardians changed their ways when they saw her red hair. The Guardians explain that they are the offspring of the White Dragon and have been living in the village for a long time. They protect the village from intruders. They also have a fascination with red hair because their master had red hair. In the village, the White Dragon is in his room talking to a priestess. He wants to serve his master, but the priestess says it's not necessary in this era. She mentions that he should have wives by now, but he doesn't. Suddenly, they hear noise in the city, and the priestess tells the White Dragon that there are curious intruders. He goes out to deal with them. Right at that moment, Yona was chatting with Hak about how fascinating it is that when a new person inherits the White Dragon's claw, the previous one loses their power. She takes the sword from Hak and tells him that if the White Dragon refuses to help them, she will teach him how to use it. Suddenly, the White Dragon attacks Yona but recognizes her by her hair and realizes who she is. This recognition makes his blood boil, and he faints. He remembers his father's words about his king appearing and needing his strength. He will feel it in his blood and see a light emerge from it. When he wakes up, he realizes that Yona is his master. Even though she denies it, she still asks for his power. So, the dragon agrees and tells the clan they will go with Yona. At that moment, the old woman appears and tells them they must have a welcome feast for the arrival of their king. While they prepare the feast, the dragon is in his room, asking his father to protect him on his journey. Hak enters the room and starts looking for something useful for the journey. The dragon interrupts him and gives him a lot of money to leave and take care of the princess. Then, it is revealed that Hak and the dragon return to the village, but they are both angry with each other and don't get along. Yona intervenes and tells the dragon that Hack is her friend and they both need protection. The dragon misunderstands and thinks Hack is weak, but agrees to protect them. Night falls and they have a big feast where everyone talks and has a good time. The next day, they say goodbye and the whole village comes to bid farewell to the dragon. Finally, the old woman tells the dragon to complete his mission and then return home. As they continue their journey to find the next dragon, they realize they don't know where it is. The white dragon explains that it can sense the location of the other dragons, so they start searching for the next one. But before they do that, they want to know the white dragon's name since everyone just calls him the white dragon, so he reveals his name to Yona, which is Kaya. Kaya is taking a break near a stream, thinking about how he promised to protect his king back in his village. Hack shows up and starts bothering him, and they end up arguing. Yona steps in and tells them to get along and stop fighting. Right at that moment, Yen arrives and they continue their journey, even though Hack and Kaya are still mad at each other. While they're traveling, Kaya mentions that he feels a connection to the blue dragon and guides them in the right direction, using his clan's knowledge of the world. But then, he accidentally falls into a pit filled with insects, which scares him. Once he manages to get out, Hack teases him about it. Suddenly, they sense the presence of some men approaching, and thinking they might be soldiers from the Fire Clan, Yona and Yun hide. But it turns out that these men are actually bandits, and they start attacking Hack and Kaya. Hack and Kaya start fighting against the bandits and manage to defeat them. During the fight, Yen helps Yona by shooting an arrow and injuring one of the bandits. After the battle, Kaya and Hack start competing to see who defeated more bandits. But then, something unexpected happens. The ladder they were standing on falls to the ground. Kaya ends up exhausted and in severe pain from his arm, while Hack's wound reopens. This makes Kaya realize how strong Hack is. Yen suggests that they find a place to rest for the night. Since Hack is tired, Kaya carries him, mentioning that a dragon's arm is 10 times stronger than a regular person's arm. While they're camping, Yen prepares some food for everyone. But Kaya complains about the food, saying it's not good enough. That's when Yona tells him that the food used to be even worse before Yen joined them. Then, Hack wakes up and denies having any wounds, even though he clearly does. Just as Yona is about to feed Hack, Kaya interrupts and offers to feed Hack instead. This leads to an argument between Kaya and Hack, but Yun interrupts them and asks Kaya about the blue dragon. Kaya points out a path in the direction of the Fire Clan, saying that he feels the presence of the blue dragon there. He also mentions that he knew the blue dragon was with his clan in the city of the Earth Tribe, but they suddenly disappeared, so Yun assumes they must have moved. They decide to rest there for the night and continue their journey the next day, even though Kaya is surprised that they're sleeping on the ground. The next day, Kaya is very tired from a bad night. Yun tells everyone to stay low-key as they search for the blue dragon near the Fire Clan. They reach a spot where Kaya can't sense the dragon. Before they try elsewhere, Hack warns that those areas are controlled by the Fire Clan and it's too risky to go there. They move to different places, but Kaya still doesn't feel the dragon's presence. As it gets dark, Kaya feels sorry about the mountains, leading Yun to think they've crossed the border. At that moment, Kaya sees Yona rubbing her leg and thinks she might be hurt. Yona says she's just tired, so Yun gives her a drink to help with tiredness and offers to bandage her leg for better recovery. After they all lie down to sleep, Kaya finds himself unable to rest, feeling the pressure to find the blue dragon because he believes everyone else is more helpful than him. Eventually, he falls asleep but is later woken up by a noise. He sees Yona practicing her archery. Before he can speak, Hack quiets him, explaining that Yona trains every night. Hack shares Yona's past struggles and her determination to become stronger, which motivates Kaya. The next morning, Kaya is more determined to find the blue dragon. Yun then suggests he might know where the dragon resides, pointing to a location in the mountains near the border. They make their way to the location. Upon arrival, they discover a small stone palace. Yun explains that Iksu had told him about a group of people who fled to the mountains for safety. Kaya feels sure that the blue dragon is inside. As they walk in, they're greeted by people wearing masks. Soon, an elderly man with a cane approaches and welcomes them as guests. Kaya quickly asks about the blue dragon, but the masked people seem unaware of any such person. Despite their persistence, the old man confirms they don't know of any blue dragon, suggesting there's been a mix-up. Yona, feeling a bit embarrassed, apologizes and requests if they could stay the night to rest before continuing their journey. The old man agrees and leads them to a room, explaining along the way that the masked individuals are locals without family ties. He warns them that the palace is like a maze and advises them to be careful, as he won't be responsible for any mishaps. Once they settle into the room, Kaya shares that he senses the presence of the blue dragon. Hearing this, Yun suggests that they should go out and investigate, assuring them that he will create a map to prevent them from getting lost. However, their exploration is cut short when they encounter a blocked path and start feeling like they are being watched. Just then, Yona hears a sound coming from behind a wall and discovers a hidden passage. Curiosity getting the better of her, she follows it, but the door closes behind her. As Yona ventures further, she finds herself in a candle-lit cave. The candles start to flicker and go out one by one. Suddenly, a man appears and informs her that he will guide her to reunite with her friends. The man starts guiding Yona deeper into the cave, claiming there's no blue dragon there. Soon, Yona realizes he has bad intentions and he starts pulling her arm. Suddenly, a masked person with a bell intervenes, scaring the man away. This person then leads Yona safely back to her friends. When they reunite, Kaya identifies the masked person as the blue dragon, who then runs off to hide. The blue dragon remembers growing up having to wear a mask because people thought his gaze could turn them to stone, though he could only paralyze their nerves from a distance. Although if he did this, he would also be paralyzed. His mother went out of her way, and that is why he was raised by Ao, the former blue dragon, who taught him that his power was a curse. As time went by, he lost his sight until one day, after a battle in which he was already weak, he ended up blind. Soon after, he also remembers that he had to use some bells so that Ao would know where he was. At that moment, some soldiers are about to arrive at the village, and even as a child, he decides to confront them and use his power. In doing so, he defeats the entire fleet but falls paralyzed. Back to the present, Yona thinks he is someone good and warm. The blue dragon starts feeling weak and his eyes start itching a lot. Just then, he hears a voice telling him that he must serve and protect his king. He realizes that he started feeling that way after grabbing Yona. He also knows that Kaya is a white dragon, but it's not clear how he knows that. So, he decides to go deeper into the cave to keep his power a secret. Kaya and Hak get angry because someone tried to take Yona, but Yun calms them down and explains that the blue dragon actually saved them, so they can't explain why Yona ran away. Yun also tells Kaya that their village might be unique, and the villagers see the dragon powers as a curse. Kaya doesn't understand and says that the dragons should take care of and protect the king. Yona decides to go back to the labyrinth to find the blue dragon. Yun knows the way and Kaya can sense the other dragon, so Yona asks Hak to stay and watch over things. Before they go, she asks Hak to promise to come back safely and be careful. As they leave, Hak notices that the villagers have been watching them. Yona, Yun, and Kaya reach the secret passage, and Kaya senses someone's presence. He asks Yona and Yun to go ahead while he deals with some villagers who say they can't let anyone out once they enter the maze. Yona and Yun continue and finally meet the blue dragon at the bottom of the labyrinth. The blue dragon threatens Yona and her friends with his sword, but Yona remains fearless. Instead, she notices the blue dragon's squirrel and picks it up, asking the dragon what its name is. He tells her that it's called Ao, but Yona expresses that she doesn't like that name. Yona tries to approach the blue dragon, but he continues to threaten her with his sword. However, she persists and simply asks him for his name. The blue dragon reveals that he doesn't have a name. Although the blue dragon feels a strange connection to Yona, as if he had always wanted to meet her, Yona asks for his support. However, he becomes angry and considers attacking her, believing that anyone who desires the power of the blue dragon is an enemy. Yona explains to him that they are friends and that she needs his power so that she and her friends can live. The blue dragon tells Yona he is cursed and his power should remain hidden. Yona disagrees but decides to leave when she sees he won't change his mind. Before leaving, she tells him his hands are warm, and she doesn't mind being cursed by such hands. As she leaves, the blue dragon questions his decision, feeling a deep sadness, while Yona feels angry and worried, like she's left someone trapped in a dark place. Suddenly, they meet Kaya and find villagers ready to attack because they found out about the blue dragon. Kaya stops a villager by breaking his mask. When Yona questions why they think the blue dragon is a curse, an earthquake starts, trapping them. Meanwhile, Hak feels the earthquake and rushes to find Yona but finds his path blocked by rocks. In his panic, Hak starts to clear the rocks with his bare hands. Meanwhile, the villagers with the boys become frightened, blaming the blue dragon's curse for their situation. To ease Yona and Yun's fears, Kaya decides to use his dragon claw to help dig them out. At the same time, the villager who had broken his mask begins to panic and explains why he believes the blue dragon's power is a curse. When he steps out of his hiding spot, everyone is alarmed. This villager, scared of the blue dragon getting close, accidentally knocks off his mask, revealing his face to Yona, who finds his eyes strikingly beautiful. The scared villager thinks the blue dragon's look can turn him to stone, making everyone fear him. But Yona reassures them he's harmless. The blue dragon then closes his eyes and covers his face, showing he's peaceful. Kaya then asks the blue dragon to let him help, or he'll join the others. The blue dragon picks up an axe, and though it looks like he might strike Kaya, he starts digging with him instead, saying it'll speed things up. Kaya digs alongside him. Yona grabs a knife to help, and Yun gets the villagers to join in. Together, they all dig to escape. Meanwhile, Hak continues to dig while concerned villagers arrive. worried about their loved ones on the other side. Hack insists that they tell him the truth so he can rescue them. Switching back to the kids, Yona becomes exhausted and collapses, even though she claims she's fine. Kaya takes charge and instructs the blue dragon to take Yona to her room. The blue dragon follows his command and gives her the fur from his mask to keep her warm. Yona is moved to tears by his kindness and assures him that she will continue to support him. She wants to create a world where he can be himself without any troubles. This inspires the blue dragon, and they both return to digging. Suddenly, Hack breaks through the wall with his spear and reunites with the boys. In that moment, the blue dragon realizes that Yona is the person he should follow, and he reflects on this realization. As he walks away, he notices that people are still scared of him. But then Yona comes up to him and shakes his hand, suggesting once again that they should travel together. She also assures him that she knows he's a good person, and with her by his side, he won't have to hide his true self anymore. At first, the blue dragon is unsure, but eventually he decides to trust her and takes her hand, tears streaming down his face. And so, they begin their journey, with Yona expressing gratitude to the villagers for their kindness, even though some of them look at her angrily as the blue dragon departs. As his mask falls, the blue dragon recalls Ao's tears and apology when he went blind. He imagines Ao smiling now that he's made friends, even though he can't remember Ao's face anymore. On their journey, Yun asks Kaya about the next dragon, but Kaya is too tired from digging and ends up joking with Hack. They decide Kaya should rest, and Yun makes food. They realize the blue dragon is still with them and ask him about other dragons, but he doesn't answer. Kaya promises to teach him everything and calls him brother. Suddenly, the blue dragon runs off and dives into a lake, catching a fish for Kaya to help him recover. While eating, Yona checks if the blue dragon is cold since his clothes are wet and he's wrapped in the man's mask. All of a sudden, they give him some food, and he enjoys it so much that he starts thinking about the princess, Yona, and calls her by her name. This surprises everyone. Yona tells him that she wants to give them all names, and asks him to choose what he wants to be called. Later that night, Yona talks to Yun and shares that the blue dragon said she could pick a name for him, but she's unsure what to choose. Yun suggests that she call him Silence because he doesn't speak much and has only opened up to her. Yun asks if he can call her Yona instead of Princess, and she blushes, finding him adorable. Later, Yona walks to a lake and senses Hack's presence. Hack promises to always protect her and wants to call her Yona, but she insists on being called Princess to honor her father. Hack recalls a moment when they were trapped and he pleaded with the king not to take her away, which made her cry. He reassures her that he always remembers she is the princess. Meanwhile, the blue dragon, inspired by Yun, gathers ingredients and pauses to gaze at the moon. Yona talks about naming the blue dragon. The dragon suggested night, but Yona suggested the name Shina, meaning moonlight, because he saved her like a guiding light. The dragon happily accepts the name and runs through the meadow. That night, Shina tells Ao that Yona gave him his first name, which he will cherish forever. The next day, Yona wakes up and sees Kaya, who tells her that he senses the presence of the green dragon. Yun informs the group that Kaya senses the green dragon near the mountains, so they decide to search there instead of heading to the castle. Shina's abilities prove valuable in avoiding empty areas. They reach an abandoned village where the king's influence has faded, and many villagers were taken as soldiers, leaving only the sick behind. They find a man coughing on the ground. Yona initially hesitates, but eventually helps him. The man shares his hopes for the new king to be better than Yona's father, who he claims neglected and impoverished them. The man explains that the king's avoidance of conflict led to clan divisions and neglect of the people, saddening Yona. After helping him, she walks away alone, accompanied only by Shina's squirrel. Yun reflects on the king's legacy as foolish, which Kaya agrees with. However, Hack defends the king's peaceful ideals, stating he was brave in his own way and hid his suffering. Despite losing everything, Yona still takes pride in her father's goodness. Meanwhile, it's revealed that Yona is quietly crying, comforted by Ao. At night, Yona practices archery, recalling her father's words to avoid it, and breaks down crying. The next day, Su-won and his allies arrive in Earth Clan's capital. Xiao-ran wakes the Earth Clan's general, urging him to change clothes, lamenting the ban on fighting. Another servant announces the king's arrival, and they meet Su-won, accompanied by Heaven's general, Han-ju-do. Expecting a secret mission, Xiao-ran is surprised when Su-won merely requests tea. As they drink, the king's relaxed demeanor reminds Lee of the old king. After finishing their tea, they tour the castle. Suddenly, Old Heat informs Lee about injured people inside. While Lee talks to Heat, Xiao-ran questions Su-won's casual visit amidst kingdom troubles, suggesting it's no time for leisure. Lee hears this and seeks Su-won's views on the old king. He warns Su-won against emulating the old king's conflict-avoidant, carefree attitude, which led to the kingdom's decline, reminding him of his promise to restore the kingdom's past glory. Su-won listens but remains seemingly unconcerned as they continue their walk, eventually stopping to admire a mine rock. Lee says he can't waste time and returns to his room, leaving the others with Xiao-ran. Xiao-ran apologizes and explains that Lee feels out of place without the battlefield, and the ban has left him feeling lost. This gives Su-won an idea, and he plans something that gets Lee excited. Lee rushes to ask Su-won who they will be fighting and starts making plans. However, Su-won reveals they aren't really going to fight. Instead, he plans to hold a festival that simulates a battle just for show. This frustrates Lee and Han, who argue that it's not the time for such games. But Su-won insists the festival will happen in a week, making Lee think Su-won is even worse than the previous king. On the day of the festival, Lee expresses his concern to Su-won about the colorful and flashy clothes they are wearing for the drill. He believes they shouldn't be carrying so much jewelry either. However, Su-won disagrees and says that since it's a festival, the clothes are just right. Then, Lee's wife, Yun-ho, who actually made those clothes, enters and surprises Lee by mentioning that she and the king are tea friends. This leaves Lee confused. As Lee looks outside his tent, he sees his people laughing and enjoying the festival music. He realizes that they have forgotten about the tensions with other nations and that this is not the right time for such things. The king starts explaining the rules of the battle, where the goal is to break plates on the soldiers' heads. There are two sides, each with commoners, nobles, and a king. Lee and Su-won will be the kings. Before the fight begins, Lee compares Su-won to a rabbit and Hak to a tiger, believing Su-won to be weaker. However, Han, who is playing the role of a noble in the game, gets angry and advises Lee not to trust his perception of Su-won as a rabbit. And with that, the fight commences. At first, it looks like Su-won challenges Lee directly, and Lee accepts the challenge. But when they go to attack, Su-won unexpectedly runs away and escapes. This causes the commoners on Su-won's side to take the lead and start fighting. During the chaos, Lee finds himself facing Han, who points out that Lee tends to focus on one thing and not pay attention to everything happening around him. It is then that Lee notices the wind lifting the earth from the field, and he realizes that his own allies are mistakenly attacking each other. Taking advantage of the situation, Su-won moves in to defeat Lee's remaining allies. However, Lee recognizes Su-won's intentions and quickly rushes to stop him. In the process, Lee notices that Su-won catches a glimpse of him from the corner of his eye. In a quick move, Su-won grabs a wooden sword from one of Lee's allies and throws it. It lands hard in front of Lee, sticking in the ground. Su-won says sorry, claiming it was an accident, but Lee realizes Su-won is more cunning than he thought. Su-won uses this moment to free his captured teammates. Then, a sudden dust storm makes it hard to see anything on the battlefield. During this confusion, Lee avoids attacks from two of his own team members. They tell him they are following Su-won's commands because he knows the best moves to make. Lee acknowledges that Su-won is a smart leader. Just then, Lee's last teammate is taken out, leaving him alone. The king offers Lee a chance to bring his team back and keep fighting, but Lee declines, stating that in real battle, fallen soldiers don't come back. He decides to keep fighting alone to the end. As they faced off, Lee noticed Su-won was sharp like a hawk, not timid like a rabbit. Just when it seemed Su-won might win, Lee accidentally stumbled and broke the king's plate, gaining the upper hand. Xiao-ran, who was watching, explained that the battle went on until Lee's plate was broken too. By then, Lee had defeated so many soldiers that they ended up winning the game. The next day, Lee, Han, and the king were having tea together. Lee expressed his frustration about the visit, feeling it was a waste of time. Just then, Lee's wife came over to tell him that traders from the Kai Empire wanted to buy his tea. Suddenly, Old Man Heat showed up and mentioned they were also selling the gemstones they used in the battle. Hearing this, the king suggested to Han that it was time for them to go. Lee praised his wife for handling the business so well, but she explained that it was all the king's doing, she was just following his orders. This made Lee realize the king had a bigger plan in mind. Meanwhile, Su-won was chatting with Ju-do, pointing out that even though Lee hadn't seen his clan's full potential, having him as an ally was beneficial. His strength and his people's strength would be valuable. Back in Lee's city, everyone was excited, thinking they might become wealthy, and Lee considered trusting this king more, as his actions had shown he was capable, something Lee wanted to confirm with his visit to the kingdom. Yona and her friends have been traveling for a few days, and they finally reach the port city of Awa, which belongs to the Earth clan. Yona and the boys are amazed because it's their first time seeing the sea. Hak mentions that he never thought he would return to this city. Kaya feels that the green dragon is restless and looks tired. Yen suggests going inside to buy some food. Since everyone stands out, Hak volunteers to go inside alone. Once inside, Hak notices some officers harassing a woman in the store. He decides to step in and fight them. Just as he does, another boy joins him, and together they manage to defeat the officers. When more officers start appearing, they decide to escape with the woman. Suddenly, the boy senses something and tells Hak that he needs to leave, disappearing in an instant. At that moment, it turns out he's been jumping from rooftop to rooftop, finally reaching a ship at sea where Captain Gi Gang She calls the boy Iha, and he informs her that the blue and white dragons are close to May Falls. Hak comes back, but he hasn't bought anything, so Yun suggests they head into the city the next morning. Hak decides not to mention the scuffle he got into. Meanwhile, the dragons are by the ocean, feeling a strong presence of the green dragon in the water. The next day, as they head towards the city, Hak chooses a different route to look for supplies, worried about being recognized by the officers. Suddenly, they come across a pirate ship, and the dragons sense the green dragon's presence on it, but then it vanishes. While Hak is checking out a weapons shop, Iha shows up and urgently asks for his help because they are being hunted. Then, they find themselves in a place surrounded by women and start discussing the local people. Iha explains that Yongjumji governs the town. During their conversation, Hak learns that Iha values his freedom highly and shares that he too is a bodyguard, but by choice. Suddenly, Yun shows up with Yona, catching Hak off guard. He quickly leaves, embarrassed, clarifying that he was just with Iha, who had vanished earlier. At that moment, Iha is seen on a rooftop, relieved to have barely escaped because the white dragon was very close. He also ponders the strong aura he sensed from Yona, thinking about his own freedom and indifference towards his destiny. He resolves to flee from any trouble and to intimidate King Huryu should he appear. Kaya and Yun start to scold Hak, but Yona steps in and tells them that Hak is just having a bit of fun, which he should be allowed to do. However, Hak tries to deny everything. Suddenly, he pulls them into a corner when he spots an officer nearby and suggests they should leave the city soon. Just then, they run into the girl Hak had saved the previous day. Everyone is curious about her, so they follow her into her shop. There, Hak shares the story of his fight and talks about the boy he met. The girl informs them that the officials are under Yongjumji's control and have the freedom to do as they please. Yun wonders if the pirates cause any trouble, but she explains that the pirates only target the governor's ships and leave the city's residents alone. At that moment, they learn that one of the governor's ships is about to dock at the port, carrying goods that will be sold at very high prices. Iha tricks them into thinking there are no pirates, but then the pirate ship appears. They fight against the pirates and, following Gi Gang's orders, they burn the ship and leave the officers adrift in boats. Back on their own ship, the pirates question Gi Gang about why she didn't let the officers survive. She explains that she doesn't want her boys to carry that burden, which makes them love her even more. Later, Iha feels a strange sensation in his leg, and Gi Gang suggests it might be because the dragons are coming for him. But he denies it. Gi Gang tells him they need to become stronger because they will soon confront the ruler, and she doesn't want her boys to go on a rampage. Iha thinks about Hak and informs Gi Gang that he met an incredibly strong guy. She orders Iha to recruit him, and he eagerly agrees to go. The next day, Jan plans to find someone to join their group while Hak starts feeling uneasy. Meanwhile, Yona notices Hak's discomfort but tries to reassure him. As they search for the green dragon, they leave Shinna alone and come across some officers in a store. Yona wants to step in and help, but Kaya stops her and suggests they move on. Hak decides to go somewhere else, leaving the rest of the group confused. However, their confusion clears up when they see wanted posters of Hak. Iha makes fun of the poorly drawn posters, but then Hak appears and burns them. Hak remembers his intention to recruit someone and approaches Iha, who unexpectedly punches him. Jan smiles at the situation, and Hak quickly runs away. Iha spots Yona with Yun and the white dragon and decides to flee. Hak explains his actions to the group, while Iha resolves to continue recruiting new members for their team. The next morning, they all reach the captain's ship. The captain wants to see if Hak, the white dragon, and the blue dragon are strong and trustworthy. They are challenged to defeat all of his men, and they quickly succeed, impressing the captain, Gi Gang, who then accepts them. Yun explains to the captain that she can cook and take care of injuries, even though she doesn't fight. Yona, unsure what to say, doesn't impress the captain, who initially rejects her. Kaya tries to speak up for Yona, saying they won't fight without her, but the captain silences him. Yona then declares she wants to fight. Seeing her determination, the captain agrees to accept her if she can pass a dangerous test that risks her own life. Everything begins when Iha guides Yona to a special place, and Yona is amazed by what she sees. The crew's captain tells Yona that if she wants to join them on the ship, she must get special a plant from Cliff. Yona agrees to the challenge, even when the captain says she must do it alone. Iha points out the path to the tree, but Yona feels scared as she approaches a cliff with a very narrow path. Despite her fear, her desire to be part of the crew pushes her forward. Iha really wants to help her but knows he must not. Yona finally reaches the tree and grabs the plant, thrilled by her success. The captain looks unsure and glances at her crew. She tells Yona that she needs to complete the task quickly because there could be a dangerous situation at the cliff. As Yona is leaving, Iha spots her and suddenly a wave knocks her down onto the cliff. Worried, Iha rushes to help her, but she refuses his assistance. However, he doesn't have a choice and manages to rescue her while everyone waits anxiously. Some of the crew questions the captain's orders, but she confidently replies that any woman can accomplish the task and not to underestimate Yona. In the distance, Yona and Yeehaw are seen approaching Captain Noah. Yona hands over the plant, but Captain Noah acknowledges that she received help. However, she also recognizes Yona's bravery and loyalty and declares that she already belongs to the group. This brings joy to everyone. After Yona is healed by Hack, he realizes that he has developed feelings for her. When he confesses his feelings, Yona blushes and quickly leaves. Later that night, the captain has a conversation with Yona. She expresses her sadness, knowing that if something were to happen to the ship, everyone would be left without a home. Giant comforts her by saying that he will not leave with her until he becomes more mature. Suddenly, one of the crew members spots a large group approaching. The captain instructs everyone to prepare for action while she comes up with a plan to negotiate with the Kai Empire, which is an ally of Junji. The captain explains that the Kai Empire is involved in human trafficking, specifically targeting women and children. This revelation strengthens the captain's resolve to attack the TR and put an end to their operation. Some express doubts, believing that the TR is well protected, but the captain insists that they must take the risk. Yona feels a bit helpless since everything seems to be already taken care of. However, Kai-ya reassures her that she should take a break while he handles things. Just then, Yeehaw offers to take Yona on a tour of the city, and she agrees. They set off together. While exploring the city, they witness the fear that grips the people when a certain person in a carriage passes by. Everyone hides, but Yona and Yeehaw notice a girl dressed as a man hiding in an alley. When they approach her, she reveals that she and her friend were lured with the promise of work, but her friend was taken away while she managed to escape. Now, they are hiding on the ship. Yeehaw informs the captain that a human trafficker is expected to arrive, and they can capture him during his visit. They also learn that a ship will come that night to pick up workers. Yona wants to participate by sneaking onto the ship to signal her team and identify which ship is involved in taking the women. Initially, everyone is against her plan, but Yona manages to persuade them, and the captain agrees, though she insists that Yuna accompany Yona with fireworks to keep her safe while the others work out the details of their plan. Later that evening, Yona thanks the captain for listening to her ideas. The captain explains that her decision is purely strategic to save the women. But she also expresses her concern for Yona, admitting she's come to see her as a daughter. This deeply moves Yona, reminding her of her own mother, which brings tears to her eyes. While walking alone, Hack finds her and confesses his difficulty in persuading her to stay safe. Yona responds that her experiences in her kingdom, where she felt powerless to stop injustices, drive her to take responsibility and help others now. The following day, Yona and Yun dress up in women's clothing. Kai-ya wants to join them, but Yona assures him that everything is under control and Hack shouldn't worry. They head to the designated location and are allowed into the room. Once inside, they wait for the right moment to send a signal to the others who are on standby in the ship. Once inside the place, the bad guy talks to his boss and informs him about a red-haired woman. Yona and Yun are taken to a room where all the girls are kept. Yona hurts her foot but remains strong. Suddenly, Yun enters the room and grabs Yona by her hair, suggesting that he wants to keep her. However, Kai-ya intervenes and stops Yun. Kai-ya recognizes Yona as the princess, but doubts it because he believed Yona was dead, as her servant had lied before. They are left alone with the other girls. One of the girls becomes desperate and starts screaming, while another girl tells her that it's useless and they won't be able to escape. In that moment, Yona encourages them not to lose hope and reminds them that they must still hold on to the hope of finding a way out. They take all the girls out of that place and bring them to the ship where the crew members who plan to rescue them are waiting for the signal. The boys start arguing about who cares more about Yona, but she doesn't want to accept that they stayed awake because they were worried about her. The captain sees this and laughs. Suddenly, Shinon notices that the boats are moving in the distance and starts preparing on the boat where the girls are. Yun and Yona manage to take down a guard using a dart and a punch. Once the other girls are untied, they start making plans on how to escape. One of the girls joins them to help take down the guards. At that moment, all the crew members begin attacking the ship with force, but they make sure not to harm the girls. On the girls' side, they manage to knock down several guards, and one of them realizes that Yun is actually a man and starts hitting him. This makes them realize that there are too many guards to fight. They make their way to the deck. Yona, with her bow, skillfully avoids the guards. Yun then tells her to take the gunpowder from her sash and light the fires. With a quick movement, Yona lights the fires, and the pirates see that she is safe. As Yona is caught, the boys see the signal. Shina points out to Hack where they are, but they're too far away, causing Hack to worry. The officers notice Yona's signal and plan to destroy it. Just then, Yeehaw swoops in from the sky and starts fighting them, vowing not to let anyone hurt Yona. An injured Yona watches in amazement at Yeehaw's strength, known as the Green Dragon. When Yeehaw wakes up, he sees Yona crying over him. Yona assures him she's okay and praises him for setting off the fireworks, calling him a genius. Iha feels he's neither strong nor a genius, but acknowledges that together they succeeded. Suddenly, mercenaries arrive on another ship, and using a ladder, they climb onto the ship where the battle is happening. In the midst of the chaos, Iha rushes to protect Yona, and just as they are about to be attacked, Shina steps in and defeats the attackers. GM thinks Hack would be the one to come, but Iha explains he made it there by jumping in with Shina because of his special vision. The scene shifts back to when the boys first saw the signal, and how Hack had sent Iha and Shina to stay and fight on his ship alongside Kaya. They were getting tired until GM joined them with some officers and encouraged them to keep going to rescue Yona. This motivates Hack and Kaya to keep fighting because the captain has told them that as long as Junji is around, the battle isn't over. Meanwhile, some pirates suggest to Iha that with 2 more ships, they could win, so they head to another ship to continue their fight. At the same time, Yun, who is hiding with Yona, figures out that Junji must be with his goods. He realizes that the ship where Iha is fighting has a lot of mercenaries, which likely means Junji is there too. It turns out that Junji and his officers are losing. They advise him to escape, but he refuses, determined not to abandon 30 years of his work just because of an old pirate captain and a young girl, referring to Yona. In a sudden move, he grabs his bow and shoots at one of his officers, who dodges. The arrow hits a fake wall, revealing a pirate hiding behind a map. The startled pirate runs upstairs. Yun informs Iha about Junji's location, and as Junji heads there, Yona watches the battle with growing anger. When Iha reaches the place where Junji was hiding, she discovers that he has already escaped. Junji is on a boat with his captain, who tells him that as long as he is alive, the war will continue. The captain suggests that Junji can go to his palace and hire more mercenaries because, in order to be powerful, he believes in using sneaky tactics. However, from a distance, Shina spots Junji and informs Iha of his location. Iha jumps to attack him. Junji notices Iha thanks to his captain's warning and shoots an arrow at him while taking cover. Iha also throws his blades, but unfortunately, they miss their target. On the other hand, Junji's arrow hits Iha in the shoulder, causing him to fall. Just as Junji is about to finish off Iha, he senses that someone is aiming at him. He looks in the distance and sees Yona with her bow, realizing that she is the princess. Yona shoots an arrow that strikes Junji's heart, putting an end to his threat. The captured girls manage to tie up the remaining officers, and the battle finally comes to an end at dawn that morning. After a long night of battle, all the pirates are exhausted. Gang tells them that tonight they might sleep as pirates, but tomorrow they'll wake up as fishermen. When they get to the shore, the rescued girls reunite with their families and express their gratitude to the pirates. Yuri, who assisted Yona, also thanks her and almost slips up by calling her by a different name, but she catches herself just in time. The townspeople want to show their appreciation, so Gang suggests that their reward should be enough alcohol to throw a party for the entire town. While everyone is getting ready to celebrate, Yun decides to focus on treating everyone's injuries instead. Once the festivities wind down, Yona takes a quiet walk around the now peaceful city. She plans to return to her group but unexpectedly runs into Suwon while he's also out walking. Both are shocked to see each other. Suwon is taken aback when he sees Yona. He thinks he's seeing things and mentions that it's January in the northern mountains. Yona just looks at him, flooded with memories of when he used to take care of her as a child. Suwon, unsure, asks if she is Yona, but she doesn't respond. He then asks about Hack, and though she remains silent, Suwon comments that Hack must be doing well since he's still looking after her. Just then, Hack shows up with his men, chastising Suwon for wandering off alone, and quickly covers Yona with his cloak. Aang, noticing someone is hidden under the cloak, tells them that the pirates have dealt with Junji, the man Suwon was searching for due to his dealings with Hack. He suggests they should be grateful to the pirates and mentions they'll head back to the castle soon. Under the cloak, Yona sees Suwon's sword and reaches for it, but he grabs her hand to stop her. When Hang and his men leave, Suwon speaks to Hack, hinting that he has intentions he can't act on yet because he needs to finish what he started. He then steps away from Yona, saying goodbye, which leaves her in tears. Hearing Yona cry, Hack rushes over to find her on the edge of the city with someone. Meanwhile, Suwon regroups with Hang and his men, telling them his visit is over and it's time to return to the castle. The next day, Yona wakes up Kaya, who had fallen asleep because he was really tired. He asks her if she's okay, and she says yes, even though she stumbles a bit. Hack holds her to make sure she's alright. Yona tries to help Yun, who is cooking for everyone, but gets interrupted. She keeps insisting that she's fine. While they're eating, she accidentally gets her clothes dirty, and the pirates point it out to her. Yona starts cleaning her clothes right there, but Hack stops her and puts his tunic on her. He tells her to change in the captain's quarters. Yona feels embarrassed and leaves. Hack thinks he might have been treating her like a child, and Jad notices this. When Yona arrives at the ship, Shina sees her and asks how to go with her. In the bedroom, Yona finishes changing and sees a hairpin. It reminds her of when Soo-won gave it to her and everything that has happened since then. As night falls, Yona watches the sunset and reflects on all that has transpired. Hak appears and assures her that as her bodyguard, he will always be by her side and she can rely on him whenever she needs help. Yona tells him that she wants to leave that place and asks him to accompany her. Hak agrees, and at that moment, Yun, Shin-ah, and Kaya show up, having overheard the conversation. Yun complains and says that Yona should ask everyone to come along. Yona agrees, saying that she will leave the next day and asks them to join her, and they happily agree. That night, there was a big party happening in town. Everyone was having a great time, and Yiha was playing his instrument. Yona interrupted him and asked if she could borrow his instrument to play it herself. But when she played it poorly, Yiha made a joke about it. Yona then told him that she actually knows how to play the harp and dance a little. She thanked him for letting her try, even though she didn't want to join their group. But Yiha stopped her and said that he enjoys spending time with a beautiful girl during the holidays. Later, it is revealed that Yiha had used his music to put the pirates to sleep while he was playing. They didn't want to fall asleep because they knew that when they woke up, they would be fishermen instead of pirates. But Yiha used his music to gently lull them to sleep, expressing his love for them. After that, Yiha goes into the captain's room where she bids him farewell because she knows he will leave with Yona. He asks her to at least assure him that he has a home to come back to. So she tells him that in order for that to happen, he needs to learn how to court her better, recalling the captain's advice when they first met. The next day, Yona says her goodbyes to the pirates and the people in the city. She tries to find Yiha, but he is nowhere to be found. Gang tells her that she will see him again when she returns to the city and offers her assistance if she ever needs a ship. As they say their goodbyes, Gang gives Yona a bag of herbs and advises her to take care of herself and not get sick. Yona says her goodbyes and starts to leave, but suddenly she stops and returns, crying as she embraces the captain tightly. This heartfelt moment brings tears to the eyes of all the pirates as they bid farewell. Yuri begins to share the story of how Yona bravely defeated Junji with her arrow. Along the journey, it becomes evident that Yona is still upset, and her tears make Yun and Kaya cry as well. Yona expresses her sadness for not being able to say goodbye to Yiha, but Kaya informs her that they all thought he had joined them. Suddenly, Shin-ah strikes a tree, causing Yiha to fall from it. The green dragon reveals that he is still loyal to Yona and wishes to travel with her. Everyone claims him as part of their group, urging Yiha to acknowledge them. Apologetically, Yiha introduces himself as the green dragon who possesses the right leg of a dragon. After joining the team, Yiha brings them a young deer for them to eat. Yona admires the deer's legs and realizes that it could help them locate the last dragon. She expresses her determination to find it. This sparks a playful argument between Yiha and Kaya about who will find the yellow dragon first. Meanwhile, Yun decides to cook the deer and asks Hak to start a fire. However, they notice a hungry person watching them from a distance as they prepare their food. As Yona finishes skinning the deer, she tells Yun that although it's difficult for her, she understands it's something she must do. She offers a prayer of thanks. Suddenly, a boy appears next to her, also praying but with hunger evident in his grunts and drooling. Yona kindly accepts him and invites him to eat with them. While they eat, Hak asks who the boy is, but the dragons exchange glances and come to the surprising realization that the boy is the yellow dragon. They are all shocked, but the boy introduces himself as Zeno. Yona isn't sure if she should ask Zeno to join their group, but before she can even ask, he happily agrees to stay for the meal. Kaya is curious about Zeno's abilities and asks him to show his strength. Zeno claims he has a strong body, but when Hak playfully hits him, it seems to hurt him. This makes Yun question Zeno's toughness, especially when compared to Hak, who jokingly claims he might as well be the yellow dragon. Kaya laughs and tells Hak he'd more likely be a dark dragon than a holy dragon, which makes Hak smile. Kaya is overwhelmed with emotion seeing all four dragons together and starts to cry. Later that night, as Yona is gathering firewood, Zeno comes to help her despite the wood being heavy for him. She takes the moment to formally introduce herself and shares that she believes he is a dragon because he shines brightly like a ray of sunshine, which makes her happy. Zeno is thrilled by her words and runs excitedly through the meadow. Meanwhile, inside a tent, Yun begins to tell the legend of the dragons, hinting that the awakening of the red dragon is near. The next day, they return to Iksu's place and find Yun's hut in disarray, with everything scattered and broken. Yun is immediately concerned, thinking someone must have attacked, but Iksu explains he simply tripped while looking for something to eat. Now that he's better, Iksu notices that the group is all together. Yun brings up the topic of the king's sword and shield, but Iksu assures him those will come into play when the time is right. In the midst of this, Zeno cuts in with a question about Yona's plans for the dragons, wondering if she intends to use their power to storm the castle and dethrone the king. Yona, however, stays quiet, unsure of how to respond. That afternoon, while the boys are talking about what Zeno said, they ask Hak what the king is like. but he tells them he doesn't know and leaves. Yeehaw tells them that Hak is like that because the king must have been a great friend of his. At that, it is revealed that Yona is at the riverside thinking about what Zeno said when Xu appears, and they start talking about what she went through. She tells him that she wants to help all the people in the kingdom, and before going back to the castle, she must do something, remembering Su's words. In addition, she tells him that she saw the king and couldn't ignore him, but Xu tells her that he understands her since when there are very strong feelings sometimes they come back and don't let the person act, making the person cry. That night, something interesting happens. Yona is practicing her sword skills, but Hak shows up and stops her. He suggests they find shelter since it's raining. They enter a cave, and Yona explains that she's been practicing with the sword so she can protect Hak without relying on him as a shield. She shares that she talked to Yeehaw, who mentioned that Hak didn't want her to use swords. Before she can finish her thought, the boys interrupt their conversation. Hak feels embarrassed, and Yona tells him that she knows it was a lie. Hak then confesses that it's actually the opposite. He doesn't want to hide her from the world, but rather show the world who she truly is. This revelation makes Yona cry, and she apologizes to Hak, promising to return to practice once the rain stops. However, when the rain finally stops, Hak sees Yona fast asleep and gently kisses her forehead. At the same time in the castle, Mundok is with a new general from the Wind clan. They have a meeting with the king. Mundok tells the king they need to go back to their village because he has a lot to teach the new general. As they are about to leave, Mundok praises the king for his efforts in the Earth Clan's city and asks what his next steps are. The king replies that Mundok should see for himself and that he hasn't done much yet. Elsewhere, Yona is on a cliff, asking the dragons for their strength. The entire group agrees, and she starts to move forward with them. Thanks for watching till this long, my fellow men of culture. Don't forget to tell us about your favorite waifu from this anime and subscribe to the channel for more content.